The letter arrived on brittle paper, its words pressed in a familiar, looping hand. "Come back to me. I'm waiting." Elise pressed it to her chest, breath catching in her throat as memories threatened to surface, memories she'd spent years burying beneath the routines of her empty life. She found herself driving through the endless mist, the world narrowing to a quarter of pale headlights and drifting, ashen flakes. The sign welcomed her, Silent Hill, and the silence pressed in heavy as lead, interrupted only by the hollow tap of her footsteps on cracked pavement. The fog was thick enough to swallow her whole, each step weighted by the unspoken words that haunted her as much as the town itself. The streets wound in impossible circles, looping her back to places that felt both familiar and wrong: a rusted playground, a hospital whose windows wept with condensation, a school where children's laughter echoed behind walls that no longer stood. Shapes moved in the mist, mannequins in torn dresses, their painted eyes tracking her, mouths sewn shut but seeping red ink that coiled across the ground, spelling things she couldn't bear to read. She fled from them, from herself, from the memory of that final argument, the slammed door, the phone call that never came. Each building she entered seemed to pulse with her grief, the walls peeling back to reveal scenes from her past, replayed in flickering, sepia tones. Inside the abandoned theater, the air hung heavy with dust and the scent of old roses. Rows of broken seats faced a stage draped in moth-eaten velvet, and on that stage stood her lover, pale and perfect, except for the hollow where his heart should be, and the tears of ink that stained his cheeks. "Why didn't you say it?" he asked, his voice echoing from every shadow. The mannequins gathered at the edges of her vision, their arms outstretched, bleeding the words she never spoke. "I'm sorry. Please don't go. I love you." Elise tried to scream, but her voice was swallowed by the velvet curtains in the dark. As the world blurred, shifting between fog and fire, Elise stumbled through a labyrinth of her own making, corridors lined with mirrors that showed not her face, but her guilt. In the final moment, she reached for her lover, but his form dissolved into ash, scattering through the theater as the mannequins closed in. The curtains fell, muffling her cries, and the streets outside were silent once more. Whether she ever escaped, or was simply subsumed by the town's endless hunger, was impossible to say. Only the letter remained, its words fading in the fog.